Is Deki suited to Ange-Ball? I know Johnny's got a lot to say. We're going to start with you, Coops. What do you think about Dejan Kulusevski? Is he suited to this role that he's playing under Ange Postecoglou?
I'm not sure, but I think he's bang out of form at the moment, personally. I know a lot of people saying he's having good games, but he just doesn't look the same player that we got first bought, And I think that he's just looking a little bit sluggish. He's not sharp on the ball. He's not sort of getting the shots, the ball out of his feet and getting the shots off like he used to. There's something not quite right there, and I think Ange is trying to fill him with confidence by keeping him on, showing them that, not even taking him off to, like letting other players come off before him. I think you can see it maybe a little bit of a confidence thing with him at the moment. But generally the way we're playing, I really want to see some pace down that side. Hence the Brennan Johnson signing. I think that's the one element I was calling out for. Like we have a good team, but we don't have any pace, any outlet. And so from that perspective, I could see a bit of it might be nice to have a little bit of competition for that space. Kulusevski brings something different to like a Brennan Johnson, but at the moment, it looks as though out of everyone, he looks a bit the one that's most out of place in the team, I would say, currently.
Johnny?
Well, look.
Different or not?
No, not different at all. Look, when Kulu came in his first few games, in fact, his first two games, I was watching it with some people and I was saying, oh my God, how one-footed is this guy? He's so obviously one-footed. And I was speaking to someone, they said, look, I'm telling you, next season he's going to get found out. He's going to have these first few months next season. They'll be watching the videos. They'll force him onto his wrong foot, and that will be it. It wasn't quite like that. It didn't have the greatest season last season. But as soon as Ange was announced, and I saw how he likes to play his football, with his two wingers hugging that touchline, wanting 1v1, I said, no. This is not Kulu. This is not Kulu's game. When you've only got one leg, you might as well have one leg. I'd like to see him develop his game. Look how Kane developed his game where Eriksen left. He wasn't prime Kevin De Bruyne then. He learned. He dropped deep and started spraying balls all over the pitch. I want to see Deki take his game to another level. I don't think that this position will ever work for him. I'm the same as you, John. There's not enough pace down that side. I've said from the day we were signing, or before we even signed Porro, that for me is Emerson Royal on the right, as a right back, or a right wing back, and Porro for me before we signed Johnson on that right hand side.
Who fills it at centre back then?
Yeah, no, that's when we had the full team. Yeah, but quite. Yeah, he'll do both jobs. He'll be whipping the ball in, right? I see Deki. I think he might develop as an 8 potentially. I think he might need to come inside to develop. But right now, I think Brendan Johnson could do a better job than Brendan than him. I think Brendan Johnson has incredible pace, and it will be quite frightening to have the likes of Solomon and Brendan Johnson and Sonny, whoever you have up front, and we must have potentially one of the fastest teams with Doji, Mickey van der Ven, and others. I just feel he just keeps coming. It's just so predictable. Force Kulu onto his wrong foot, and it's game over. How many times did we see him against Burnley? He's beat his man, whip the ball in. No, he wants to come back again and try it again. Get the ball in the box. That's what I would be saying. If my Sunday League team, when I was managing the kids, get the ball in the box, cause trouble. But it's too laboured. And yes, he got a lovely goal the other week and a bit of a lucky deflected goal. But other than that, he's very uninspiring.
Yeah. The thing is with Deki, I think he can play the role, to be honest. I really do think he can play the role, but I don't think he's playing it well at the moment. And I think he does the first bit right, where he takes it past his man. But then after that, he seems a bit lost at the moment. And I think his end product is completely gone. I don't know where it's gone. Like his decision-making in that 6 months when he first signed to us till the back end of that season, I thought was brilliant. And ever since then, I feel like his decision-making and his end product and the crosses he's putting in and the angles that he's making for himself on the shots are completely off. And I don't know what it is about him, but I do actually think that he can actually play the role. I don't know how you feel, Sid. I definitely think he can. I think a lot, both Johnnies here are underestimating Kulusevski, in my opinion, and I think they're over egging how bad he has been this season. Last season, it was very disappointing compared to what it was it was a disappointing season, no getting away from that, albeit he did struggle with injury. And I thought there was a period, first of all, when in the first half of the season, I still thought he was pretty good. And there was a period when he came back from injury as well, and he got an assist against Liverpool after coming off the bench, and then got 2 assists against Leeds, and he was looking like his old self. And he ended the season really poorly, especially the last 3-4 months of the season. No excuses. And of course, we want him to step up this season. I think he started the season fairly well. I don't have a lot of complaints that like a lot of people do about Kulusevski. I think he's providing a threat down that right-hand side. I think his dribbling ability has been pretty strong. He did get a goal and he's got an assist. Look, it's not incredible numbers, but 2 goal contributions in 4 games is not horrific. So I wouldn't say his output has been terrible.
Better than Rishi anyway.
Yeah, that's for sure. And look, when I'm comparing him to, like, people are talking about him like he's putting in Rishi level performances. Like he's when I look at him, he's still got quality. He's very strong. It's very hard for defenders to deal with his strength when he's backing into them, and then when passes are played into him. I do think go on the outside, and that's exactly what he did when he set up Sar's goal against Man United. Albeit I would like to see
deflection. It was a
deflection. Yeah, but he went on the outside, didn't he? He still went down the outside. As I'm saying, he's been criticised for not going on the outside. I'm saying he can do it. Maybe he should trust his right foot a bit more, and I agree with that.
Does he have one?
He does. I've seen his right foot. It's not terrible when crossing. I think
you let him know, because Simeon, I'm not sure he knows he has 2 feet. That's the only thing I'm concerned. Maybe someone should send him an email. Look, the thing is, I would say that if you read some of the early interviews with him, he looks at him, he feels that his best position is actually as a 10. So that would suggest to me that being out on the outside limits him somewhat with a little amount of space that he has to work with. I personally think that he could develop as an 8. He's young enough to develop his game and to maybe find himself in a different position. Because if you put Brendan Johnson there, I think Brendan Johnson will end up taking that position, and then I can see Kulu moving inside somewhere.
I think Kulu could be like a bit of a Bernardo Silva kind of player who can fill in on the wing and fill in central areas as well, to good effect. I can see him being that kind of player for us, and I think he's got the quality to do that 100%. Yeah. But I think when it comes to Brendan Johnson taking his place, I think for me, I still look. I like Brent. I think Brendan Johnson's going to be a very good signing. I think he's going to add something different to our team, but you've got to remember last season he was very, very used to playing with a lot of space because Forest, albeit he didn't see the ball that much, when he did see the ball, a lot of the times it was on the transition, breaking into space on the counter-attack. And that's where he looks at his best, because when he's got a lot of pitch and a lot of grass to run into, and he's got a lot of space to take on his man, that's where I feel like Brendan Johnson's at his best. Now, if we're going to, a lot of the times, not saying not every time, but a lot of the times we're going to be playing against teams who are sitting in a bit of a low block against us, looking to frustrate us and going to try and suffocate the space, restrict the space. And I don't know yet if Brendan Johnson's game is at the level where he's going to consistently thrive in those moments, or he's going to frustrate in those moments. And we're yet to see that. I think in those positions, I much prefer Deki in those kind of situations when teams are sitting back and Deki has time to take people on. So I think in the little when he's I think when space is restricted, I think Deki, because he's strong, he can thrive. But and I think he's got really good close control. That's something I question about Brendan Johnson, his close control and his ability to play in space and his first touch. And those things are going to be vital when you're sitting against low blocks. So there will be games where Brendan Johnson is really, really effective, and we're able to isolate the fullback, and he's able to breeze past him with his pace. But it's the games where there isn't as much space is where I question Brendan at the moment.
Can I just say one interesting thing is what you're saying about that, and I totally agree with you. But the thing about Ange, which I really like, is trying to get across to players who played before in such a stringent system. If you see space, no matter if you're a centre-back, you're a right-back, you're a midfielder, drive into the space, okay? And I think with this ethos, you're going to pull players apart, and even teams in a low block, you will find space, because if you drive into areas where there is some, you're going to create pockets for the likes of Johnson or Maddison or others to run into. And I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree with anything but you said, really. But I do think that under Ange's system, where you drive into the pockets, you will create space. And I expect us to see a lot of goals this season scored by a lot of different players.
I agree with that.
Coops?
Yeah, and even distribution across the team. I said that to you, didn't I, Ben, right at the start?
Yeah.
This was before Kane left. I said you're going to see a season where all the goals are going to be more distributed across the whole team.
Yeah.
More of a well-oiled machine rather than everything focused on one player, which I think is going to be good for us, definitely.
100%.
Something that we've missed for so long, isn't it? Probably since that season where we had Eriksen, Dele, Kane, Son. I think there was a few more as well that were just chipping in everywhere with the goals.
And one thing that I've really noticed, this is probably the most press-resistant team we've ever had. So what I mean by that is when the centre-backs or, like the CDMs are picking up the ball, you're not seeing these sort of sideways passes anymore where they're trying to keep things safe. They're realising by keeping it safe, you're actually putting the team under pressure. If you have an opportunity to go into the space, go into the space. Don't hold back on that. Because if you start to hold back, you start to go backwards a little bit. The opposition push up. Then there might be a long ball forward. You immediately turn over play. Now we're seeming to keep the momentum, keep the pressure on all the time now. And that starts off right at the beginning of that is how the centre-backs are moving the ball forward. If it's 90% chance you can move it forward, move it forwards. Whereas in the past, it'd be, I could get that forward, but there's a 1% chance the defender might get in the way. I'll go backwards. The difference now, I think you can see Ange saying just forwards, keep it. And so now the whole momentum is like pushed the entire way. And that's, for me, that's been the massive difference I've seen with the team compared to even the Poch era. I think we were still a little bit, dodgy in that area, the press resistance area. But now it's like full on the whole time, which I love to see.
Yeah, it's interesting what you're saying about, the always forward thing. Every time I've gone to watch Spurs now under Ange Postecoglou, every time Spurs pass it backwards, I always quickly glance over at Postecoglou to see what he's saying, because I've seen him go mad on a couple occasions when Spurs did it backwards. And
rather than us going mad, Ben, in the stands every time they pass the ball back, when Davies got to the line and turns around and passes it back. We're going that way. So it's refreshing to look at the manager for his frustration rather than vent it ourselves,
100%.
And also sorry, just to add on to that as well, you'll notice when the midfielders are picking up the ball now, their instinct is to get on the half turn. So to turn their bodies, shape their bodies in the right way, let the ball run across them more. And also when there's an incoming player, drop the shoulder back towards their own goal. So it kind of befuddles the opposition and keep the forward momentum as well. I don't know if that's part of the coaching or just the talent we've got in Basuma and Sarri. And even Skip does it at certain times, but that also keeps that forward momentum. Whereas in the past, they'd get the ball, they'd hold it, they'd lay it off sideways, would try and sort of work around the opposition a little bit or go over, Now it's a case of get those space, go into it, drop the shoulder, get on the half turn and keep it moving. And I think it's really fluid. It's really nice to watch as well.
The one thing I really worried about was, I thought the big test would be, okay, so we're playing Brentford, who are quite happy for us to have the ball, and we're a possession-based team. What would it be like when we come up against a team that likes to possess the ball? Would we be able to win the ball back? Would our recovery be good? You always think of the great Pep Barcelona team that just had the ball all the time. And, should they lose it, they used to hunt in packs to win it back. And I was just interested to see how Ange-Ball would develop when we didn't have the ball, when we went through periods. And so far, I've got to say, I've been quite impressed. I wasn't impressed with, obviously, Burnley, but I think the big test is coming up now with Liverpool and Arsenal.
Yeah.
And if we
we're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot over those two games.
I think
you weren't impressed. Did you
no,
say?
I was impressed. I thought
he wasn't impressed with Burnley.
I wasn't impressed with Burnley. I think Burnley pressed in the first 15, 20 minutes. They pressed really high and really fast, and they caused us a little bit of trouble. And it was good to see Kuti being the one to say calm down, which was kind of ironic. But yeah, I think I will judge how we are when we come against possession-based teams like Arsenal and Liverpool. How do we recover the ball? Can we still retain the ball, or are we on the back foot with them? I'd be really interested to see. For me, that would be the real acid test of where we are as a club right now.
Johnny, we got a members chat for you from Ariane. He says, Deki has been good. Porro down the wing is a silly idea. He's just a ball crosser. Porro on the wing ideas only work in a Sean Dyche team where it's cross and inshallah. Porro can't beat his man. He can't dribble. What would you say to that one, Johnny?
Well, how can I respond without being rude? Listen. Look, I disagree. Okay, we saw it last season. They played it. I called it right from the off. I remember when they put poor Tanganga in against Leicester and Porro. I said, turn off your TVs, guys. Prepare for the worst. They go, oh my God, I can't. How can you say that? I didn't even watch the game. I didn't even want to watch it. I listened I listened to it. I didn't watch it, and sure enough, carnage pursued. I think he's very good going forward. I think he can cross the ball. I think he can whip the ball in. He's got a great shot on him. And with Emerson behind him, giving him, the comfort of not having to track back, he can concentrate and using his energy going forward. I think he's tenacious in the tackle. He offers something different. We're bringing in Brennan Johnson, who basically, as you said before, Simon, his first touch is quite awful at times. What he does have is the second fastest player in the league, and he can carry a ball. I do think that he potentially has something about him. He would not have been my first choice signing, though, not in any shape, way, or form. But he's here, and I think he'll be a useful asset. But I still think Porro could do a job, and I think you'll notice against Burnley, if I'm not mistaken, Deki came off, and who came on? Emerson Royal, and who went up front? Porro. Thank you.
I think you can do in small spurts. I wouldn't want to play him.
If you've got injuries, or I'm saying it's an option. I'm just saying it's an option.